Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy July 4th. Happy Independence Day. I am Dr. Wesley D. Willis, and you are watching another episode of the Nurse Doc Show. Thank you all for joining us today. I have on a special guest, Mr. Kawan Glover, who I'm really excited. Came in all the way from Washington, D.C., from the capital of the United States. So he's going to be here today to talk about a very important subject that's kind of, I feel like, been slowly unfolding over the course of the last 4 episodes since I came back from fighting COVID. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment on this video, and also provide us with questions that you have. As most of you know, who's been watching this show, we talked about adverse childhood experiences. Then we went on to talk about calmness and mindfulness. Then we went on to talk about relationships. And the other part of this is, like, sometimes all of those things are so overwhelming and fall apart. Sometimes at the same time, the reality is, and how do you manage all of those things falling apart in your life? And one of the things we talked about in the adverse childhood experiences episode is talking about resilience. And this gentleman, Mr. Kawan Glover, is no stranger to adversity and resilience and overcoming difficulties. So I'm incredibly excited to have him on today to talk about his experience. So thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Good. So we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And you can also definitely make sure that you download the Nurse Doc app off of your Google Play Store or your Apple Store. So yeah, it will definitely be there. You can see it all live. So yes, Mr. Kawan Glover, thank you. Please introduce yourself. Tell people about yourself and your history, a little bit about your history.
So, like you said, my name is Kawan Glover. I'm a public speaker. I'm an author. I am a victory coach, and I am an overcomer of all things. My life was very easy, and I was very fortunate up to a certain point where I had a very big rough patch. But now I'm here with you, and I'm just here to share my story and help use my adversity to help other people not have to go through what I went through to get to where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Great. So one of the things that I'll be honest, so my last assistant, Jared, attracted Jared to your story and to your history because he could identify with you being young, you being, again, college age, when all of these things were going on, and also being an African American male, or being a male of color, black male. And he said, wow, I could not imagine something like this being my story, how that would impact him. Can you tell us how everything started?
Yeah, so as I said before, I had a pretty fortunate life. I had straight A's in school. I played football. I ran track. I got a state championship. I graduated number 6 out of 800 students in my high school. So I was ready for this upward trajectory that just wasn't going to stop. I was going to be president. Then I was going to work on Wall Street. And I was just like, wow, my life is going to be easy. I actually boxed in college, got straight A's my first semester at the University of Maryland. Then things changed. Mm-hmm. That next semester, my grades started to fall, and I started having these really, really strange headaches. And I was in my internship office that day, and my boss looked over at me, and he said, dude, are you okay? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, man to man, I'm like, why you dressing me like this? Why you pushing me? And then, but that's not what he heard. When he asked me, was I okay? He said, all he heard was, and I couldn't get the words out. I couldn't write words on paper. So when he sent me to the doctor, actually his wife had to come downstairs and send me to the doctor. I was being so obstinate. And then that doctor ran some tests, and he told me to stick my hands up, and just like this. Mm-hmm. And I tried to stick my right hand out, and it started drifting. Mm-hmm. And he got real quiet. He said, "You need to go to the hospital." And then I went to the hospital, and they ran some tests, CAT scan. Yeah, you have something in your brain that's not supposed to be there. I'm like, I'm 20 years old at the time, and I have never had anything wrong with my brain. So I'm just like, okay, we'll fix it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, we're going to send you to another hospital to get a better scan. So I went to GW Hospital, got an MRI. Mm-hmm. one of the worst claustrophobic experiences I can ever remember in my life, and I'm not even claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Hey, Mr. Glover, you have something on your brain, a lesion on your brain, called a cavernous malformation." So I'm like, "Okay, well now you know what it is, so you can fix it, right?"
Mm-hmm.
No, we're gonna send you home, and if it gets worse, come back. 2 days later, or within a week, it did get worse. Lost my vision, lost my balance, and I had really bad headaches. And I came back to the hospital. Oh, we knew this might happen. And I'm like, well, if you knew, why didn't you fix it? And then I had my first brain surgery on August 15, 2014. And a month, return to school. Again, I'm 20 at the time, so I'm going back to school, I'm going back to partying, I'm going back to everything that they tell you not to do. And when the doctor was telling me, she's reading off the paper, all I heard was blah, 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 like Charlie Brown noise. Blah, 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 blah. I just need to get back to my life. Within a month of returning to school, I was in my room, had this really bad headache for 13 hours. And I'm rolling around in my bed. I can't go to sleep. I just want to go to sleep. Go to the bathroom. Stomach start rumbling. Oh, I got to throw up. About to throw up water. And I'm just like, this isn't right. So I back up, lose my vision, try to curl up on my bed, and then my right leg just stops working. My right arm just stops working. And I'm like, what is happening to me? So I'm rolling on the bed, and I'm just like, oh, I know what it is. Called the hospital, and I called my mom. It's like 5:30 in the morning. And just imagine getting this call from a loved one or a family member, a sibling, or someone close to you. Hey, Mom, and I'm tearing up. I think I'm having a stroke. And that's when everything really began for me. I went on to have another brain surgery, and fast forward through a lot of other stuff. Now I'm here with you, but that time in my life was a very dark and pivotal period. But Gary Vaynerchuk said that adversity is the foundation for success. So I finally feel like I found my footing. I knew who I am, and that period of my life taught me that it's not about the times you get knocked down. It's about the times you get back up, and that's where resilience is: getting knocked down and being able to get back up quickly and keep going forward.
One of the things you spoke about during that time was I graduated from high school, number 6 in my class of 800. I'm going to Wall Street. I'm going to work on Wall Street. I'm a bright, young, educated black man who's going places. And then to have like this just like knock you off your feet. I mean, it's just, I couldn't fathom it happening to me. And not only am I a psychologist, but I'm also a nurse and a licensed clinical social worker. I can't imagine that being my experience, like as I even read your book, and that we'll talk about a little bit later. Like how do you start negotiating this new picture? And I get adversity, I get resilience, I get all of these things, but how do you start negotiating this new picture, this new trajectory for your life where all your friends, some of the friends, I'm gonna keep it real. Some of the friends you'd be like, why didn't this happen to them? I remember when my mother got cancer, I was like, well, I know some pretty sucky people. Why didn't it happen to them instead of my mother? So how do you go about like that? Because my mother was like, well, son, God only puts more on you than you can handle, And I'm like, that's a lot. That's some deep stuff to try to go and be able to go to sleep at night and try to really live that every day. Like, how did you start like integrating that to like say, you know what, I have a voice, and this isn't the end of my life almost.
Yeah, and it's easy for me now to be able to say those quotes about adversity and triumph and, keep pushing forward. But in the midst of that storm, you're constantly in a state of questioning yourself, like, is this really happening to me? Is this really my life? Is this really who I had been a state championship athlete on a trajectory to be successful in every endeavor I took upon myself. And then now it's just like, no. That's not who you are anymore. And detaching yourself from something you identify yourself with is an immense challenge. And I remember just being alone in my apartment, looking at my hands like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And you have to take, in victory, there's like I call it peaks and valleys. And at the bottom of the V, there is a point where everything seems dark. So you're embracing despair. You're giving up hope. And there's a decision you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're gonna continue to push forward, and like trauma and all the things that happen to you are not your fault.
Right.
They just happen. The things just happen. But it is your responsibility to come out of that. And I had to choose whether I was gonna wallow in that for the rest of my life or be someone else. And it, a lot of times it's not just you. When you make it about something bigger than yourself, like the most important person in the world to me is my sister. Mm-hmm. She's 14 years younger than me, and I remember her being in the hospital, and it still troubles me up to this day. I remember specifically, everybody was tending to me, and had this 6-year-old girl was sitting in the corner, and nobody's paying her any attention. Mm-hmm. So I knew I had to come out of this because she needs the nourishment and love from the family that I was getting or taking from her. So when you make it about something bigger than yourself, it's a bigger drive than just I need to get out of this. For what? Like I'm already in the depths. So when I made it something bigger than myself, I understand I had to reestablish a new identity. Then I started my trudge forward, and there were lows, but I had to get through it.
One of the things you talked about was when you were a freshman in college was when you got this diagnosis, and you're like, okay, fix it. And you have all of these basically practitioners and clinicians talking to you, throwing big words around. At any point, did anybody sit down and say, do you understand what this could mean for your life, or what's next?
Absolutely not. And even if they did, I don't think at that level of maturity, at 20 years old, I'm invincible. Mm-hmm. You can't hurt me. You can't tell me I'm going to stop doing something or tell me I need to make adjustments. I'm 20 years old. Like, I still have my whole life ahead of me. Nothing will change. You're going to fix this, and I'm going to go back to my life. But when things started to change, I had to have those moments with myself. Mm-hmm. And they will be week-long, month-long, year-long internal conversations. And I remember Brent Simpson, the boss I was telling you about at the beginning, he's still in my life today, one of my biggest mentors. And he said, you are trying to live the lives of two people, the person you were and the person you are now. Two people cannot exist in the same body.
Wow. You're
never going to be able to get back to where you were. You have to adjust to who you are and who you are becoming. And he said, the biggest advice I have for someone at that age, slow down. Hurry up and slow down. Mm-hmm. Because the opportunities and things you want will come, just not when you expect them to. So I had to really get to a point where I was able to slow myself down and just take stock. And gratitude plays a huge part into what I do.
Right.
Every day.
Right. We have a picture. Tell me about, and I want you to tell you, my team found this picture on the internet. Tell me about this boy in this bed and what was going through your head, if you can remember at that time.
Okay, so that was when I got picked up for the third surgery. Mm-hmm. And right there, my dad was in the room, and I was sitting, and I was on my phone. I'm just like, here we go again. Mm-hmm. This is after the second stroke, and this is before the third surgery. I'm just like, oh, they're going to fix it. I'm going to get up and walk away from him, not knowing that this third surgery would actually have a major impact on my physicality. So again, that hubris of youth is still kind of present in that photo. But I know that now, if I had been more, if I paid attention to how serious, because I soon got on a helicopter after that picture. That was the first time I got lifted to a hospital. I'm just like, how serious is this? And then, I went on to have a 15-hour surgery up in Rutgers, New Jersey. So that was really the quiet before the biggest storm. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really take into account how serious it would be. But looking back, I'm just like, look how much you've changed. Look how much you've learned. So that was the precursor before the big event that really changed my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. One of the things that you also in your bio is that over the course of time, so you graduated from college, you became a member of a Black Greek letter organization. Exactly. Congratulations. Because I pledged in undergrad also, and I know people that were like literally disenchanted just because they were older than what the normal age of a pledgee would be. And here you have experienced, already your first brain surgery as a freshman, and to try to again, be as, I won't even say normal, but be as close to the person that you had imagined your life being. Like, how did you negotiate that with other people, like meeting bros, talking to bros, like, you know?
I remember because I crossed as a freshman, and I crossed right before everything started happening. And I was like, I'm the man. I crossed as a freshman with 3.75. Nobody could tell me anything.
Exactly.
Like, I'm on cloud nine. And I remember after the stroke, I went to a cookout, and I brought, came talk to me, and he wanted to grip me. And my hand wasn't exactly, working. So when I did that, he was just like, what's wrong with your hand? And then he went on to say something really offensive, which I won't repeat on the air, but he said that, and I was just like, what do you even say to that? Like, how I'm about to explain my whole story to this guy, I don't even know, I'm never going to see him again. And, the brothers in my chapter really took a defensive stance in front of me, like, hey, bro, like, no, he had to, like, back off, that type of thing. But there were instances, even in the professional realm, and, I come from a southern raising, sort of,
Right.
and, you always start to show your elders respect, and it's often seen as disrespectful when you stick out your left hand. So, he stuck his right hand, I stuck out my left hand, and he's like, is something wrong with you? Something wrong with your hand? And Brent, he's also an alpha, and he was standing right there, and it was just those incidents where it felt good to have someone to defend me, but it's also that thing of, can't speak up for myself. I don't have the time, 30 minutes, to tell you my whole trajectory. This is just where I am right now. So it was debilitating, but definitely on that frat angle, like being in frat parties or being around bros, everybody wants to grip it. And I'm just like, I try to leave as quickly as possible. I don't want to, have to explain to everyone in the room. But there was also especially in my chapter, one of my neos, he actually created a shirt campaign for me to raise money for my last surgery. The graduate chapters in my area, alumni chapters, they, band together. But it's always a two-sided thing like that. Some people that know they're going to defend you, but there's people, strangers, that you have to, like, go out to explain to them what's going on. Like, how am I going to do this? So that was a challenge for me.
Yeah, that's, it makes a whole lot of sense as you talk through about kind of like the bros and trying to like negotiate the bros and their perception of who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be. And I think even more so, I'll be quite just frank and throw it out there, as black men, we are perceived to be so strong, to like this masculine sense of masculinity. And you talked about kind of like shaking your hand, and not only is actually shaking hands with the right hand, or with the left hand different, but it's also some cultural stuff to that. Being Ghanaian, if you give somebody your left hand, that's kind of like, they'll like take a draw back, like, and so there's some cultural stuff that happens in that, and people don't often think. As you have kind of like navigated this, how have you feel like you have either helped other people, or what drove you to help other people? Because now you're a voice. Now you are, now you've launched a website. You've launched your own company, Overcome Adversity LLC. You're speaking publicly about this. What got you to that point to say, you know what, let me just...
Again, life is never linear. There are points where we're up and down. So I would have spurts of confidence where I'm just sticking up my left hand and like, hey, this is me. And I like for people to hear me speak before I meet them. But I went to a Nigerian wedding like maybe 2 weeks ago.
I saw pictures.
Yeah. And it's just like, I know there are cultural barriers, so I often try to speak to them or stay around people that I know, because I was shaking people's hand and I can feel the limpness and like, what are you doing? And then I can just, in my head, I'm just like, they lost me. So now I have to do something to show a little bit more. It's interesting, but now I feel more confident in what I have to give as value. So I'm more observant. I'm more cognizant of how people may view me, but at the same time, I don't let it deter me from being of service or being of value to whatever community I find myself in. It's sometimes challenging to my ego as a man, like, hey, and even now, as I'm 27 now, so I think about fatherhood and being a husband, and I'm just like, I'm supposed to be the dad, the guy that runs around and has fun with the kids, but like now it's just like, I haven't run since freshman year, like been able to run, I haven't boxing or anything like that, so those questions I have, but when I speak to children, and I speak a lot in the Northeast region and Vermont, stuff like that, I see the light in their eyes, and that if I'm able to give this knowledge, this wisdom to them now, they're gonna grow up with a whole different perspective, and that's really all it's about. Like, I could look at my arm and my leg and be like, I'm never gonna be whole again. My life sucks. But I look at it as like, no, this is a gift. This is the best gift I've ever been given, because I get to show the world, and show people around me that I'm still able to do without. Like, imagine what I'll be able to do when I get this back. Like, you don't even know where I'm about to go. But it's just a level of encouragement I know my story gives to people, and that's where I draw power.
Okay, I got Jacques motioning to me about. So what's going on, Jacques? What are we?
The people in the chat want to know, what is your gratitude practice, Kawan? Because you talked about gratitude. So what is your gratitude practice?
So, okay, great question. When I get up in the morning, the first time my feet touch the ground, I say to myself out loud, I'm glad to be alive. That's the first thing I do. And then I kind of just take a few minutes to pause, and I just kind of look out the window or somewhere where there's sun. I step outside, take some deep breaths, and I just point out things I'm grateful for, things I can hear, things I can see. Some of these are mixed with grounding exercises, but I'm just note the things I'm grateful for when I get up and when I go to bed, because there was some points in this whole journey where I was like, this is it for me. This is, but the fact that I get up, each day I get to get up and like, oh my God, I'm still alive. I still have the ability to impact. And one of my life goals is to impact and reach billions of people. So when I get to get up and there's a chance for me to help, inspire, or save someone's life, I'm grateful for that every day. So it's really simple: meditation, prayer. But that waking up and starting the day with gratitude just puts me on a whole level. And I can get into a whole conversation about serotonin, but we'll stop there.
Well, it's one of the things that, in reading your book, I'm not going to lie, I shed a few tears, not just because your story is powerful, but also because I have lost friends, personal friends, who were at the end where they had nothing, they felt like they had no other option, that whatever they felt at that time, because obviously they didn't share it with me, they felt like they couldn't do anything else, and they committed suicide. And I think that was part of my rationale when I wrote the title about, like, when you're at the end of your rope, just kind of tie a knot and pray to God somebody saved you. So, congratulations, for not giving up.
Yeah. There were times.
Right.
There were times.
What drove you to write this book? We're gonna bring up your book. What drove you to write this book? To put your pain, to put your experience on paper?
And I talked about the duality of those people that live within me. When this is all over, this is 2018 after the surgery, I just wanted to put it all behind me. But there were people, you should write a book, you should tell your story, and I'm just like, I don't want to think about this at all. I don't want to ever talk about it again. And my grandma, she's my dad's mom, one of the close people to me. We have meetings every month, actually. And she said to me one day, your life is a testimony. You have to tell this story, and I believe it's favor. And favor ain't fair; it's just favor.
Right.
That's where I got the title for the book.
Right. We have it up on the thing.
And I finally started putting it together. And if you were to see the first draft, God, it was awful. But it was essentially me clearing everything out. And I was just putting everything I felt on paper. It didn't make sense, but it made sense to me. This is what I felt inside. This is what I put it on paper. And then when I finally got to a point where I understood why I was doing it, I go back to this question. It's like, why me? Why not that guy over there? Why not this family? Why does this have to happen to me? And then there was a voice. Why not you? If not you, let's do something Les Brown said. If not you, then who else?
Right.
And I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. So that's when I knew I had to put it to paper and share it with the world.
Right. I was just thinking about also, as we talked about love, relationships. You said, I'm a 27-year-old man. the reality of fatherhood, the reality of getting married, the reality of wanting to do all those things, you know, and negotiate that. I've had patients, there's so many different patients, personal friends, there's so many different experiences. Like I just think about like one who was like, who would want me like this? You know, I had a very close person in my life who said, who would want me like this? You know, and I just think about kind of like that. Like, how do you go about creating a safe environment, a community, a village where you don't have that stuff seep into your mind?
You know, I think I had developed this hyper independence. Like I'll do everything I need to do for me, so I don't need anyone else. But I think that's also a trauma response. That's so you don't have to burden other people.
Right.
And I feel like now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do everything that I can, but there are gonna be things that I'm not able to do. And if I'm upfront about that, like just like when I'm speaking on stage to adults, I'm just like, look, I may drift to one side or my arm may stick up to my face as I'm talking. Are you okay with that? And putting that up front alleviates and allows the other person the room to say, oh, that's too much for me. And I really believe in not taking things personal. So if somebody doesn't understand or doesn't want to deal with it, I don't put them at fault. I don't say, oh, you're a bad person. But for myself, I would say to myself, there are things you can't do that you stop trying. Like there was a point in my life where I remember my ex-girlfriend, she said, why don't you open doors anymore? Why don't you use your right hand at all? And I was like, I just can't. She was like, you haven't tried. And then I was like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can work out. Oh, I can do this thing. And when you start building a level of confidence, and confidence is derived from the word with fidelis, like with trust in yourself. So when I started developing that, and it's really a lot of deep internal work that I have to build my self-esteem, my self-confidence, and then I exude that in my competence and confidence. When I put those two together and couple with my story and the things I found I've been able to do, that's creating my own space. So when I walk into a room, that space comes with me. So you can say whatever you want to me, but you don't know where I've been. And even in that space, I don't really delve into negative controversy or conflict because I have empathy. And this is one of the biggest gifts this whole condition has given me. So now when I see someone living on the street or someone yelling at someone, I'm like, they barely had a bad day. Well, I don't know what's going on at home. Are they arguing with their spouse? Are they low on funds? Things like that. So creating that space where I delve into my own confidence and draw from the power of my story allows me to just stand upright and tell my truth and understand people may not understand, but that's okay. And it's okay to be yourself. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do these days.
You one of the things I see you doing, and I think this is really incredibly useful, is I see you speaking in like auditoriums before children. And being that you've had the experience of, you know, being an adult and then being in rooms with children, who do you find to be more compassionate as you think through?
Yeah, I remember speaking to a group of parents, and you can see the tears well up in their eyes, but also the children are often more resilient than we think we are. And when I say this, like when I went to school in Vermont and I was speaking to the kids, like, oh yeah, my mom, my biological mom, has been in jail all my life, but she got released due to COVID. And I'm like, you're in 6th grade. What are you talking about right now? And the experiences they have and share with me, I'm just like, you're like 12. Like, how are you dealing with this? And I learn more from them because they don't have the filters we develop as we get older. They don't have the, I gotta say this, or I gotta do it this way. They like run up to you and say, like, this is what I'm dealing with. And like the kid, he was in 7th grade, might have been this tall. And I'm walking down the hall. I'm leaving the classroom just spoken. And he said, yeah, I lost my dad and my grandma. And he just started listing people off. And he said, yeah, but I'm okay. I'm going to get through it as long as you keep talking about it. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you? So I find they're more open and blunt about it. And they don't have the filters that adults do. But there's, good and bad, or, weak and strong in both sides. But I find a lot of spirit, a lot of power that is not tapped into from children because they were affected by this pandemic as well. And a lot of different ways, social development, being with their friends. So I find a lot of strength in it. That's why I enjoy speaking with kids.
Right, right. I could imagine that it offers a bit of liberation for children to to kind of know that I can be different, that my life can be different. My dad's in jail, or my mom's in jail, or I have insulin dependence, and like I can't eat the same things that other kids. That speaking in front of them offers them a bit of liberation, so that again they see this guy who speaks up, who's overcome this, graduated from college, and then again living a very fruitful life that he enjoys, created his own company. There are many people who will die in this world never having created their own company, never have, taken the time to create a beacon for their voice, but you chose to do that. I love your website. I wanted to bring your website up also, and we're going to bring up the URL with the website. It's like right underneath. Now, did you create this yourself? Also, there's a URL under, like the link right underneath. Can you bring that up for me? With that, Jacques.
Yeah, so I just wanted people to have another way of reaching me. Like, I'm on all the social media, and a lot of times more professional organizations and people that like yourself may want to see something like, okay, what if you got your story? But I've seen, talking to adults, their eyes glaze over, like, okay, that's a great story. What can you actually do? What, I have other stuff that is going on in the back of my head. So when I created this website, I just wanted to put my story on there, show who I was, and the color palette just speaks to, my whole mission. I think blue deals with like service, and orange is like energy. So putting those two together, service with energy, that's where overcoming adversity comes from. So, and the logo is like the man that conquered the mountain and standing under sun in victory. And that's what I'm all about, victory. And every victory is conquered because there's a battle. And in life, everyone goes through a battle. I don't care if it's spouse, I don't care if it's financial, I don't care if it's relational, I don't care if it's familial. Everyone has a battle. But when you reach that level of victory, you can relish in that, but know that there's another battle coming. And that's what life is all about. And I relate my life story to adults more so to Rocky. When you look at the first Rocky, when he's facing Apollo Creed, he didn't win that fight by winning. He won that fight by losing because he kept getting up. He kept getting up and going the distance with somebody that was supposed to demolish him. So that's my, as many times as I get knocked down, I'm sure I'll get knocked down again. I'm just going to keep getting back up.
Right, right. One of the things you mentioned about everybody's fighting a battle. But the thing is, a lot of us are fighting battles that people don't see. And you're fighting a very outward battle, but that people can physically see you, and physically talk to you. You talked about the fact that you have conversations either with like schools or with whoever's booking you beforehand, so they hear how you speak, or you send them a video. Have you found that to be significant, or what was the initiation between preparing somebody for you?
Yeah, because I remember I had to go to speech therapy, and I have to overly enunciate my words. So I choose my words very carefully. Like in my head, I will repeat the words to myself to make sure they're coming out right. So when I'm going to speak to a school, I have to almost oversell it because, to speak, people have to understand you. So when I would have conversations, I remember, can you repeat that? Oh, can you say that again? Oh, what are you saying? And I had to practice and practice and practice again. But it was, once I became comfortable putting my story out there, it was just like, hey, take it or leave it. This is who I am. This is what I speak about. This is what I've overcome. Whether you think your students can gain value from them, whether your teachers think you can gain value from them, that's for you to decide. But I've given you what I have. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just sharing my story and being unapologetic about all the things I meant to. I edited the different levels of education, of course. But when I talk to adults, it's like that internal battle is probably the most important part. So, women or females are primarily more prone to the depression and things like that. But men deal with it too. And when you see a man talking about it, you're just like, I can talk about it. I can talk about depression. Like, that gives people a release. So when I talk about just anxiety and suicide ideation, things of that nature, they're like, I've had people approach me afterwards like, I felt that too. I know what that's like. And when I'm able to share that, it creates a level of vulnerability that allows other people to build vulnerable, and they overcome their own internal battles because they've seen someone else talk publicly about it. So that gives me a lot of joy, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to keep doing that.
Talk about, if you can recall, like where you were in those points where you felt like suicide was the option.
I remember that one of the darkest days, it was probably like 2019. I'm sitting there, and I bought this like machete for like a costume party, and it was sitting right there under my TV stand, and I literally had to sit on my hands. So I said to myself, if I get up, it's over. And that's when a lot of times you reach to a point of hopelessness. Like, there's nothing else for me. I have no value in this world. Nobody really understands. Well, why am I still here? What is my purpose? And when you find yourself hopeless and purposeless, it's like, well, this is the best option. Like, if I used to think thoughts like, if I were to die today, I hope God will take away people's memories of me so they can not know I existed. And I just remember being really down, and I had dreams that I had cancer. And then there's this thing that lingers. Like, I think about PTSD and soldiers. What's the next fight going to be? When am I going to get deployed again? When is the next tragedy going to occur? Right. And I'm constantly looking on my shoulder. You can see it in, like, when I'm approaching people I don't know. I'm always on high alert now. Like, any negativity, any confrontation, anything in my environment, any light headache, I'm just like, here it is again. So I have to constantly let myself know that there's only the past exists in your memories, the future exists in your imagination. The only moment that exists is right now. Right. And I have to find ways to constantly remain in this moment. Because if I don't, those thoughts they rear their head.
You allude to a very, very, very important concept, is the importance of mindfulness and being in the present. Because, again, the past is the past, and the future is all your imagination. And we're always going to predict those things. Most of us are going to predict those things to be negative. Like, we're not going to think of the future. We're not going to think like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. For some of us, but for those of us, I think, who are a bit darker hue, that's not like something we would wake up and think that that's going to be our reality one day. Our reality is, am I going to be stopped by the police, or am I going to, or am I going to have something bad happen? How do you feel like that you have created basically a world that you want to live in?
I was talking about this with one of my best friends today, and it just revolved around the concept of going on a date. If you go on a date and you have in your mind, this person's not going to enjoy it, they're going to order the most expensive thing on the menu, we're never going to see each other again.
I dated some of those, by the way. I just want to
most likely, with that train of thought, that's going to happen. So when I go into a situation here, like when I came here today, I'm just like, this is going to be the best interview in the world. People are going to love what they hear me say and what we talk about. When I go into different situations, like I came to Atlanta, I was like, I don't know, I ain't never been to Atlanta before, but then I got to the plane, I was like, I'm going to dominate this city. Like when I go into different situations, that's the way I think about them. But when you focus on, oh, this is going to suck, or I had a bad experience, or, I'm not going to get what I say I'm going to get, you find yourself in those situations and they are exemplifying what you thought. And that's where faith comes in. Like, I do not feel like I'm ever going to be in lack. I've had a very fortunate life, and I really want people to understand. I come from a 2-parent household, live in the suburbs. Like, nothing I never lacked in my life. But I had something happen to me that forced me to look at things a different way. So now I carry a different mindset because I manifest what I want to happen in my anxiety, in my environment. When I said I want to start speaking to people, when I said I want to do more interviews, when I said I'm going to be 100% healed, I don't care if I'm 102 and then my arm comes back. Like, I believe 100%, 110% that I'm going to be healed, and I'm going to make those things happen. So I'm just taking my story and using it for all it's worth right now to do what I'm put here on my purposes on this earth. And I have blinders a lot of times to negativity. Like it doesn't come in my radar because I'm focused on empowering, inspiring, and saving the lives of everyone around me that hears my story. So, there are negative things that happen, but it's kind of like, I'm moving forward, and that's how I carry it. So that mentality has given me a lot of strength and given me a lot of opportunities.
Right, right. You talked just then about your family of origin. Talk about how has this impacted your family? Like your sister, you said you remember her being 6 years old at the time, sitting in the corner and recognizing like, she needs this love too, but I'm the sick kid right now. How have how have they transformed their lives, and how are they? Where are you guys now?
I can see that definitely my parents are very hyper attentive. So anytime I stumble or I hear a loud noise, I think 2 months ago I was in my room, got up early. I tend to get up early, and I like fell and hit my neck on a bookshelf. And they heard everybody rushed into the room, and a lot of my immediate family is very hyper attentive to anything that I do. But it's also, my sister and I couldn't let her grow up without a brother. And I couldn't let her see me falter and give up, because if I gave up, then why should she try any harder and
Right.
things that she may experience? And she's 13 now, going on 14, and she, she does say she rolls her eyes, but I think she still remembers that I didn't quit. So when she doesn't quit in arguments, she doesn't quit in fights, she doesn't quit in competition. Like, she does not quit.
Right, right.
And I think, I like to attribute that to some of the things I did. And my mom and dad is just like, I've seen them build their lives from nothing. My dad he was born in New York, moved to Smithfield, had, beautiful childhood, but now, he has a house paid off. And my mom came from, different circumstances. Her parents split, and, just she had to pay for college by herself. She worked 3 jobs. She was raising me. Like, the things I've seen them do, like, I have to one up that. Like, I have to survive this to be like, yeah, you did that, but like, look what I did. So it's kind of like a motivational thing, but then also kind of like when my dad, and he's like very stoic, just doesn't say a lot. And I sent the book to some of his best friends, and he was like, my friends read this on one day, and it was very simple. He did just like that, and he didn't say anything, and I was just like, wow, I made my dad proud.
Right.
And that was when I saw a change in our relationship, and as I'm getting older, making my own decisions, it just continues to grow, and I continue to show him strength, and that I'm gonna get it however I can, and I think they have a lot more faith. I mean, again, they're hypertensive, but at the same time, they know I'm gonna do the best I can.
Right, right. Wow. So we are like coming up on time. Anything like that we got over there, Mr. Director Jacques? When he was telling me about his sister, that reminded me of you, like being the older brother, and kind of like
It was that kind of not triggered, but it kind of like made me think of like how important that relationship among siblings are. Like I just celebrated my sister's 30th birthday. We're 3 years apart, but we are just so close in that relationship, that sibling relationship. Because at the end of the day, your parents will come and go. You will hopefully outlive your parents, but that sibling relationship is a long relationship.
Right, and it's multi-layered. Oh wow. Well, please tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can book you, and all of your social media handles. We're gonna bring them up also.
Okay, so I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all at Kawan Glover. I'm also on Clubhouse, Kawan Glover again. If you want to get in contact with me, you can get in touch about my coaching or book me for speaking. That's info@kawanglover.com. Again, that's info@kawanglover.com. I'm always available for a conversation, and just, maybe you need a little motivation. Maybe you need someone to listen to. And then no one else tells you, this today, tomorrow, next year. You matter. I love you. And remember that the darkest night always comes for the brightest morning. And your morning is coming.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys, we won't be having a show next week. I have to go take care of some things, but I'm super excited about this particular guest. Thank you for coming in again from Washington, D.C. to share your story and to the peach state of Georgia and even more so Atlanta. So have an amazing week. Stay amazing, and we will see you all in oh, happy 4th. Thank you. See, this is why I have Norman. This is why I have my Norman, a.k.a. Jacques. So, yeah, have a happy 4th. Be safe in these streets because it's, it's crazy out here right now. But we're going to just like how you've overcome that, we're all going to overcome what we just experienced in this pandemic. All right. Take care.